Hello, everyone. Hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Kmart, and I want to talk about some basketball. And today, we are going to be talking about the Cleveland Cavaliers and how the patience from their front office, from their management, so far at least, has appeared to pay off in this 2024-2025 season. So, we'll get right into it. The Cavs are, as of the recording of this video, 4-0. They are off to a very strong start after facing an offseason where they opted to make very few changes to their roster and effectively run it back with the squad that they had last season. They did make a change at the head coaching position. They brought in Kenny Atkinson. They sent out Bickerstaff, I believe it was. But the idea here in terms of the players on the roster was that the team in healthy condition would be able to break through and find further success, or at least make it further than where they were last season. Now, 4-0 is still just 4 games into the season, but to this point in the campaign, things have been working out pretty well for them, and part of that is because on one side of the ball, at least, the Cavs have picked up right where they left off. Last year, the Cavs were one of the better defensive teams in the league. They weren't quite top 5. They were 6th in defensive rating, but again, still one of the better defensive teams. They've continued to play strong defense so far this year. They're allowing 106.8 points per game. That is 4th best in the league. They have the 6th lowest field goal percentage against, and are also 6th in terms of total field goals allowed. So they are keeping their opponents scoring down relative to other teams, right? 106.8 is not as low as it was in previous seasons, but for today's NBA, they're keeping the scoring down. They're not giving their opponents crazy amounts of opportunities on the offensive end. And that's kind of the blueprint that we saw from them last year. It was a very sort of slow, methodical defense that played relatively physically as well and did not afford their opponents the chance to sort of play by volume, right? You didn't get too many shots against the Cavaliers, so you had to make the ones that you were given. So far, they're doing something similar. The real difference so far for the Cavaliers compared to last season has been the absolute explosion in offensive output that we've seen from the Cavs so far. Take a look at their scoring output, 123.5 points per game this season. That is 3rd in the league, and that is over 10 more points per game than what they averaged last year. Now, again, last year's average is over 82 regular season games compared to just 4 for this season, but you're already seeing that potential jump in their offensive output. If you take a look at the further offensive stats for them, they are 2nd in the league in offensive rating, 2nd in total field goals made, 2nd in 3-point percentage, and 1st in the league in field goal percentage overall. So they are playing at a very efficient rate here in terms of their shooting, and that efficiency becomes even more impressive when you take a look at the Cavs stats from a volume perspective, because the Cavaliers are not taking too many shots. They are 22nd in the league in field goal attempts per game. They're 18th in the league in 3-point attempts per game. And again, as I mentioned, 22nd in field goal attempts, 1st in field goal percentage, 18th in 3-point attempts, 2nd in 3-point percentage. So they are really hitting shots here and not just sort of winning by volume as we see some other teams do. Part of the reason for that is because the team's core is delivering on exactly what they thought they could get out of these guys, right? Mitchell, Mobley, Allen, and Garland are combining to average 78.2 points, I believe it is. All 4 of those players are also shooting at least 50% from the field. So when your star players are scoring at a high clip and at a high efficiency, the rest of the team can sort of just follow their lead. And that's exactly what the supporting cast has been doing, right? Last season, they were all pushed into bigger roles due to the injuries, but now that they can sort of slide back into the roles they were meant to be in, they are still stepping up. The Cavs are averaging 38.8 bench points per game. That is 7th in the league. They have 2 players off the bench, LeVert and Jerome, who are averaging double figures. So The second unit is producing. The second unit has clear sort of leaders as well, so they're not just kind of sending the bench players out there to aimlessly try to hold the line while the starters rest. There is a plan, there is a hierarchy that is working for the Cavs so far. Now, at this point, you might sort of ask, these are just stats, right? You're just listing off the offensive stats for the Cavaliers. What's the actual point behind it? Which, fair. The point is that the Cavs had a plan. They made a decision on a sort of basketball philosophy standpoint, and so far it appears to be the right decision. They did not make changes to their roster. They did not look to bring someone in or ship someone out who a lot of people were sort of speculating could be traded, right? And if you look at the Cavs roster right now, you'll sort of see what I mean. Every single player that has logged minutes for the Cavaliers so far this season was either on the roster last year, or in the case of Jalen Tyson, I believe it is a rookie. So he was in college last year. That is pretty rare, right? They effectively have exactly the same roster that they did last year. And it's working out. They're 4-0, right? Their offensive numbers have exploded. Their defense has not suffered as a result of the offense improving either, like we've seen with other teams. The Cavs were faced with an incredibly stressful situation in this last offseason, right? They were at a crossroads about whether they should hold the line, try to run it back with the roster they have, or blow things up and try to start, maybe not rebuilding, but sort of restructuring the way that they made their team. Right? If we remember what we were talking about over the course of the offseason and the last regular season as well, there were rumors about whether Donovan Mitchell was going to be staying long-term. You had injury concerns for Jared Allen and talks about whether the Cavs should try to move him. A lot of people, especially after they got eliminated in the playoffs, asking or wanting or calling for Darius Garland to be traded away. So just about every one of the Cavs core players at some point faced some form of concern or rumor, right, about their future with the Cavaliers. And the team opted to effectively not make any changes to the roster. They did change their head coach, but the players remain largely the same. And the Cavaliers did face some criticism for that, right? There were a lot of people who believed that that was the wrong call. But the hope was, and still is, that with the roster built the way it is, they had done the job already. Right? The Cavaliers management and front office believed that they had already built a roster that could find them success. They just weren't healthy. They dealt with those injury concerns. Those injuries had a knock-on effect, forcing the rotations to change, and the team still made it to the playoffs and still, made a run, but didn't go as far as they wanted. The thought process was, if everybody's healthy, we come back, we don't make changes, and we believe we can be where we want to be from the perspective of the Cavaliers. And so far, that viewpoint, that faith in their team as constructed, appears to be paying off. Now, again, all of this needs to come back to the caveat of we are 4 games into the season for Cleveland, right? They're 4-0, but 4-0 is still just 4 games out of 82 in the regular season. So the wheels could fall off, right? The Cavaliers could collapse. But for now, at least, the decision, the philosophical sort of choice that the Cavaliers management made and the patience that they showed appears to be working, appears to be paying off for now. But that's all I really wanted to do. The stats sort of show the Cavaliers are performing really, I think, better than anyone could have expected. The question is, can that last, right? Do you believe the Cavaliers can remain this strong on the offensive end across the majority or all of a season? Do you think that if they do manage to do that, will it result in the defense sort of slipping? We've seen that from teams where the offense goes up, the defense kind of takes a step back. The Pacers of last season, kind of the best example of that. We also have an example last season of a team that did remain basically top 5 on offense and defense. It was the Boston Celtics, and it won them a championship. So yeah, do you think the Cavs can do this long term, and where do you see the expectations for them? Will they be a top 4 team in the Eastern Conference, or do you believe that there's some sort of drop off as the campaign goes on? But either way, please feel free to let me know what you think. But other than that, Thank you all so much for watching, and I will talk to you later.